Today, so the Oz Tank typically is like the Shark Tank or the Dragon's Den, depending on where you are in the world. And we listen to ideas pitched from the community, and then an investor panel and me, we decide who to give ISK to and who we don't give ISK to. Typically, we give a lot of ISK to a lot of ideas. Today, the show is different because, surprisingly or unsurprisingly, I don't know, depending on how you look at it, the ideas aren't trickling in as high as they were before. So in the first show we had like, I think 30 submissions, the second was 20, the third was 10, and now it's going rather slowly. We have just like 2 or 3 ideas now pitched, so it's just not enough to run another Oz Tank. And so if you guys just don't want our money, then that is totally fine. But one question I do get a lot is, hey, what happened to all the other ideas? Because we get some people posting on the Discord in the project update folder. A lot we don't. So, hey, Crowder, good to see you, man. He does give 10 billion tempo. So today I'm just basically doing an open call-in show. I wrote a message to all the alumni, and anyone who wants to come in can come in today and present how their project is going. And it's I think a nice setting for us to kind of look back at what has happened in the Oz Tank and where the ideas have gone. Unfortunately, I've had 2 or 3 cancellations, so I really don't know how many are going to be here today. Yeah, Mifune was one of the ones that canceled on me last minute. He wrote me about an hour or 2 ago. I'm still hoping he might pop in later, but he had some RL shit to take care of, so that's fine. That always goes first. You all know that. And so today, basically, I know that we're gonna have 2 or 3 for sure popping in. Anyone else who's been a candidate here, including some of our investors or some of our tycoons, do pop in. Just join the waiting room channel on our Discord, and I will pull you into the show. I'm already seeing the Pew Smooth there. You're hopefully also joining us since you pitched a few weeks ago. So yeah, just join us in the waiting room, and I'll pull you guys in. Apparently today the code to join the giveaway is !giveaway. So I had to reinstall some of my software, so I haven't changed it to !raffle. So if you want to take part in the raffle, it's !giveaway, and it's apparently also not drawing automatically. So I will change that in a second, but since it's not drawing automatically, I'm just going to make it pick right now. So if you're not in the giveaway now, we're giving away a 3-day Omega code and 50 Plex. That's pretty much the weekend packs, if you know those, the weekend fleet packs. So I'll give you another 10 seconds to enter the giveaway with !giveaway, and then we'll draw our first winner, and then I'll set it to automatically. Cool. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Our first winner is Lord X1. Lord X1, if you're there, please send me a message on Discord or on Twitch, and I will send you the code after the show. All right. Having said that, we're going to use a timer here to draw the next winners. We're going to set these 15-minute timers automatically, and we're going to say, and I'm going to go back to !raffle because that is shorter and less annoying. And that should be it. Let's see if this works. I'm going to reset it, and boom, there you go. !raffle, and it's going to automatically draw every 15 minutes. Okay, cool. Having said that, we're going to talk to our first contestants. One of my favorite ideas, and that is from Tony. I'm going to pull Tony onto the show here. Tony, can you hear me?
Tony, can you? Hey there.
I can. There you are. Perfect. I can hear myself on your end, I think, but that should be fine. It's good now.
Okay.
Let me also go into the screen share part, and then also, if you want to join us on video, Tony, you can do so. Okay, video disabled by you. I'm going to turn that on. There you are. Yeah, you joined us on video as well last time, right? I remember. I'm gonna pop out, and then there you are. And I'm just going to make that a little bigger, and then we should be good. There we are. That is not very centered, but it'll do for now. It'll do for now. We'll deal with it. Tony, good to see you. Welcome back. We're going to talk about, I'll have you do a quick introduction of the idea that you submitted last time, because I'm pretty sure not everyone was in on that at the time. But you also sent me a presentation that I am going to pull up, and that is this one. Perfect. Recycling for fun and profit. And then I'm going to turn the music off, because who needs music when we're talking? All right. I think that's it. Tony, thanks for joining us again. Good to see you. And maybe you can start by giving us a quick reminder as to what your idea was, because I think, wasn't it episode 1, maybe even? Episode 1, yeah. That was almost 6 months ago, I think. When we started. Yep. So very cool. So give us an introduction, and then an update to where your project is.
Sounds great. Yeah. So this idea was called Recycling for Fun and Profit. And basically the idea is to go out into space and locate abandoned pause infrastructure, primarily in wormhole space, but also in nullsec and all corners of the EVE universe, and to clean up those old pause towers, harvest the anchored modules, and sell those for profit. The goal of this is to clean up space, deal with all of the junk that's out there, and sort of freshen EVE up in a sustainable and social capitalism sort of way. So I've prepared a couple of things that we've learned over the last 6 months in implementing this project, and what returns you folks have seen on your investments. So in our original projections, we had estimated about 3.5 billion ISK revenue generated in the first 6 months. I'm happy to report that we've been able to significantly exceed that, becoming more efficient over time for a variety of reasons. And so far in year-to-date returns, we've been able to return back just around 8 billion ISK to the investors in this venture. So
and let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there, yep. Because if I say that we went into this expecting more projects to have an ROI, right? I wouldn't be lying, because like in the beginning we said, yeah, of course, some of these are not going to be pro profit, because we're going to do music contests, and we're going to do, we're going to fund huge fights, and all of that happened. But in the end, I think there was only 2 out of the 15 to 20 projects that ended up actually with an ROI. And I think your project is the most profitable of them all. And every once in a while, when you just post your updates in the channel, and I look at our wallet uptick in the Oztank character, I keep being amazed, because really you're very close to what we wanted it, or we wanted at least 50% of the ideas to be like, and so you're definitely one of the most memorable and successful investments we've ever done. But continue with your show.
Awesome, glad. Yeah, our sort of emotional rule of thumb was that if we were returning back to you at a rate equal to the Delta Fund, then we would consider it a green light. and we're happy that we seem to be exceeding that so far. So we hope to see where we can take it from here.
Hell
So
yeah.
this is the return rate is significantly higher than what we had estimated when we made our funding pitch. So we're happy to have shown the viability for the 6 months year to date. So we wanted to kind of go into why that was, because there was some dynamic discussion and some skepticism when we made our original pitch, particularly around the idea of whether or not harvesting pause modules was sustainable, with the view generally held that pause tech is old and crusty and headed out of the game and has basically been replaced by upwell structures. So that was one of the headwinds that we had in improving our business model, and we wanted to pull this data off Zkill. It's the total number of pause control sticks killed by year as a proxy indicator to understand how much of that hardware is actually out there. And obviously, when upwell structures came into the game, there was a huge downturn in the number of pauses killed and presumably installed. And that did continue year on year until about the last 18 months, where we've started to see an uptick in the amount of use of pause sticks out there. So we wanted to try to help contextualize that to understand how this ecosystem was working and why there is money to be made going out there to recycle this tech. So let's drill into that somewhat. So one of the reasons pause towers haven't gone away is illustrated by this and the next screenshot. Pause towers still have a lot of utility in combat mechanics. It can commonly be seen, such as in this slide, where we see a corporation that has indeed installed an upwell structure and is using that as presumably their main base, but also maintains a pause structure as a fallback location, both for defense of their installed infrastructure in the event of an eviction, or if they need to make an evac from a PvP engagement. Obviously, with tethering mechanics, being able to go behind a pause shield is extremely valuable in certain types of combat. So this is just one of the uses that pause sticks continue to have in EVE today, and is one of the reasons why they keep being installed and used and part of the ecosystem. So here's another example of that mechanic of where players will install pause sticks as fallback locations in systems that otherwise contain upwell structures as well. So these two technologies have kind of a viable symbiosis going forward in the game, and that's why we think this business model is viable and will be able to be sustainable. So that's kind of the framing. We'd like to give you a quick sort of snapshot of some interesting stats of how things have progressed so far. We've recycled 22 abandoned control towers. Of such, as I pointed out in the revenue slide, we've been able to obtain just over 8 billion ISK in modules. We did a computation on the Zkill values of the control sticks themselves. So we're happy to report that OzTank is winning the ISK war. We have crossed the event horizon of the original investment that you folks gave us, and are in the green from that metrics. So we're at just over 14 billion ISK in total resources moved.
That's
So from there,
impressive. So I don't think my fellow investors aren't here today, and so I don't want to make any decisions on their end, but I'm pretty sure that we don't want any more money back. So I'm pretty sure that from now on, you guys just do whatever it is that you do, because our idea definitely wasn't to make money off the OzTank. We just thought that some projects that have an ROI could actually extend the time that we could run the OzTank. But I think see, Crota is already posting in chat. If Crota and I were already, then 2 out of 4 investors agree that you guys have done more than anyone else. So now you guys just deserve to keep the profits.
Well, you are beating me to my last slide, because we were going to make it pitch to do a 50-50 split of the profits moving forward, and so you're giving me a bid over what I was going to ask for, but I take note.
Nice.
So
nice.
That's where we're flowing with that so far. Some of the lessons learned that we've had on this are illustrated here. On the left, I've got a little screenshot from what it would be like if a portion of our monthly inventory were to be liquidated through high-sec buyback. And as you can see in their system, they're putting very steep, in some cases 90% discounts on the sale prices of the modules. And if you do the tooltip mouse overs on these, the reason that high-sec buyback is quoting for that JITA discount is the ISK to volume ratio. some of these modules, particularly the eWar modules, are very substantial. And so it really eats into the logistics of being able to bring them to market and convert them into revenue and things like this. They're quite simply difficult to deal with. So I want to say very, very clearly up front that the correct answer to this problem is Red Frog. Waiting for suitable wormhole connections and then dumping these massive modules to a high-sec NPC station and then contracting Red Frog to take them into JITA is absolutely the hands-down mathematical best case solution to this problem. That being said, we decided not to do that one time. Because we decided for purposes of fun and profit that we would load about a month and a half's worth of inventory into a Charon and
Ooh,
yeet it through on the way to JITA. This was fun. We put a support fleet, scouts, all that good stuff, and it worked. We did not, in fact, lose the freighter. There was adrenaline all around, and we got all the stuff to market. This was stupid. We did it for fun. We only did it once. We will be continuing to use Red Frog moving forward, as should other people who want to convert POS modules into money. But that's one of the aspects of the ecosystem of recycling these modules and turning them back into cash. So that being said, we were also very surprised as part of the ROI of this project. We found a bug in EVE Online. And for those of us who are coders, it particularly amused us to get the "you should not be seeing this message" error. So what appeared to have been happening and what we were able to reproduce in the 22 encounters that we had is that for reasons unknown to us, probably due to downtime restarts, database pointers getting cross-wired, whatever, modules that were obviously player anchored originally were being reattributed inappropriately to SCC. So there's a certain number of these out there that we were unable to recycle and remove, or we chose not to. Obviously, Concord was not going to come around and blast us in wormhole space, but these were modules that had been misattributed to SCC and therefore ostensibly unanchorable unless we wanted to cross that
I love
allegedly red
this.
line. So you should not be seeing this message. And yet, there's the screenshot. It also happened again. We had this same misattribution of a Minbatar control tower to SCC in this wormhole action. And you can see I've zoomed in on the error a little bit there on the right-hand side, where we were getting the prompts that this was a deadly, dangerous act. So there you go. A priceless EVE bug tossed in for the ROI on this project. So that being said, one of the things that has been problematic for us in the last 2 quarters is how to appropriately report back to you folks on the monetization chain. Basically waiting for suitable wormhole connections to spawn to allow for moving significant amounts of bulky high-value modules into a suitable K-space takes time. That's obviously not something we can control. It could be up to a month before getting such a connection. Red Frog usually delivers within about 7 days, usually shorter. And then in terms of time on market, going through waiting for the higher priced faction modules to sell can sometimes take 1 to 3 weeks. So there's a long chain there between when we actually collect something and when we're able to translate it into ISK. So in the project updates last month, obviously saw instead of us just quoting an ISK number and remitting it back to you folks, we instead reported on what we harvested. Over time, we would presumably shift that to just a cash on hand basis and report what we harvest in a given month and then report ISK quarterly. And over time, that would iron itself out, but it can take a long time to turn a recycled POS module into cash. So that's something that we're also trying to shorten for operational reasons. So that takes us down to this summary of what I prepared. One of the positive things that's happened is that by being more selective in the targets that we choose to engage and going for only the high value abandoned POS sticks that have faction modules, for example, we can tremendously increase the ISK per hour generated in this. And that's one of the reasons why we've been able to report increased profits month over month since we started this. Contrary-wise, on the other side, we kind of don't overly love some of the consequences of that because feeling like we need to be doing this as a profit-oriented enterprises for you folks means that we're passing up well over 80% of the POS targets that we could be recycling because they don't have hundreds of millions of ISK worth of modules dangling there, or it's a stick that's just completely abandoned to send any modules, which we would like to eliminate, but there's no ROI to doing so. So that's been kind of an obstacle. So what, as I said, we were going to pitch was, instead of giving you folks all of the revenue from the sold modules, we wanted to do a 50-50 split. But it sounds like you're already overshooting us and coming back to I mean, when we hit 10 billion, when we give you guys 100% ROI, then we just keep it all? I'm not sure. What are we doing?
Yes. Yeah, we definitely don't want to make money off of this. So if we get the investment back and we've created some fun and then some profit for you guys, then I'm going to speak for our investors and say you've already exceeded, I think, everyone's expectations, and so now just have fun and profit for yourself for sure. This sounds amazing.
Talk to me into it. I accept your grievous terms.
Nice. I have some
Thanks,
I have some questions. Are you done with the presentation, or?
That's the last slide.
Yeah. Actually, there were some questions in chat. So if you put a question in chat and I missed it, just put it in again. But for me, how many people are you averaging, or is this a very tight knit group? It's always the same. How can we envision that?
We do keep it tight knit. This is also some of the learnings that we've had, and we've been trying to decide whether or not to like blog posts or maybe some YouTube content or something on some of the things that we learned, because the amount of resources that we have to deploy on our sides, from the corp to lock down the wormholes, to run iterons for freight, to have scouts on the appropriate lookouts. It scales quite rapidly. And we feel pretty comfortable with the methodologies we've developed to reduce that. But we do have to deploy support fleets with this. So in general, our original pitch was to deploy Lashaks, which we are doing. It's usually 5 to 6 Lashaks. For a large tower, particularly a faction tower, that's about a 2-hour removal time. And then with the support fleet around that, so you're looking at 10 to 12.
And I know, if I remember correctly, we discussed in your initial pitch, how long do you think you can keep this up? Because isn't there a point where you've cleaned everything up? What's your feeling now that you've been doing this as a fun business for 6 months?
So we think the evidence is pretty good with what we're seeing in sort of anecdata perspective and what we've reported and what been able to show so far, that we are recycling resources at approximately the same rate that they're being put down. We think it's pretty likely that there are somewhere between 200 and 300 pause sticks being installed in wormhole space on a monthly basis, because it's basically at the same level of the destruction. So with what we've been showing, we are recycling maybe 1 or 2% of that total traffic. So to us, that appears to be a pretty sustainable rate given the other overall economic context that we're seeing.
That's a lot.
And
that's much more than I would have expected.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, we had a bit of a discussion around that in episode 1. And that's one of the reasons why we've been trying to collect what data points that could be reliable, to try to get proxy indicators for what this market actually looks like. And I think the reality is that upwell structures are tremendously useful. They've got a lot of advantages that pause tech doesn't. But it's very clear that for the last several years, there's been a homeostasis achieved in the ratio between pause kills and upwell structures installed and destroyed. And it looks like these are technologies that are going to be used in parallel moving forward, probably for good.
I'm going to try to answer some questions in chat, but you can probably help me. Zirili asked, where can we read more about the specific project? Is it listed in any of the idea archives yet? So you can hear the initial pitch. It's out there on YouTube, OzTank episode 1. If you just look for that, you'll find it. And then there's a project update channel on our Discord, which I'm linking here, where Tony posts updates every once in a while. Other than that, I think, Tony, as you just said, you're trying to keep it more low profile because obviously there could be a target on your back.
Yeah, I mean, Eve being Eve, we just sort of started this with the assumption that there would be folks out there that would love to be able to put the trophy on their wall of having hunted and killed the Oz tank Leshaks.
Yeah.
So we've been trying to be fairly uh, robust in our operational security. But as well, part of the whole point of this was to try to demonstrate to the Eve community that there is a sustainable business model behind this. You know, we would like to hope that some of the larger wormhole corporations and other interested players would replicate what we're doing. We don't want to be the only ones doing this. We want to be the proof of concept that shows that it is actually uh, sustainable, profit oriented for players to clean up something that's a huge eyesore in Eve with all of the abandoned pause sticks instead of waiting around and sort of pleading with CCP to go through and delete them all or something. We can actually clean that up ourselves and make money doing so. So we'd love to have other groups do the same thing that we're doing at this stage.
And Luca in chat is asking, what do these towers actually do? Any new ones putting up? So any new ones putting up, you just answered. That is yes. What do these towers do? You can probably answer this better than I can.
So one of the clearest use cases for these towers is that, for example, if you're engaged in a PvP altercation, you get a cooldown timer for the amount of time that you can tether to an upwell structure or dock. So if you engage in combat in wormhole space and you have that timer going on and you want to have a safe place to go and regroup and repair it and whatever, or disengage from combat, you can't just fly back to your upwell structure and dock immediately. That's prevented by the timer. However, if you have a pause stick online in the system, you can go behind your pause shield and either wait for the timer to reset or regroup or do whatever you need to do to get yourself back on your feet to re-engage in that combat. So it can provide a vital fallback position during PvP that can make the difference between maintaining and losing whole control in your wormhole system. So for PvP purposes, there's a very clear justification. Another justification, for example, is that you can put extra large ship hangar arrays on pause sticks, which allows the docking of vessels that would not otherwise fit in, for example, an Astrahus. So in terms of an amount of money you spend to have a foothold in a wormhole, you can put in an Astrahus in a large pause tower and have much larger ships to field without having to make the jump of 20-ish billion to put in a Fortizar. So it's cost effective from that perspective as well. Likewise, we've been keeping a whole slew of screenshots of interesting things that we're seeing in wormholes, including like ancient silos and reactor arrays and stuff that has been obsolete for ages, but is nevertheless still installed and being used and running and all of that stuff. It's like archaeology in some cases, stuff that's been there for years and is still being used. So there's a variety of use cases, but those two, PvP and large ship storage, are clear.
Oh no, dude is asking, do you fit the Leshaks for PvP or do they need to be fit for the job only?
I am not going to disclose our fit on this channel. I will say that has been an extensively debated point in our corp about how to find the precise balance. I will say that in general, the smart thing to do is to go into the system and establish hole control first. Make sure that the holes are ruled out, that you've got your 15-hour timer on new SIGs coming into the system. You want to minimize the probability of having an unplanned PvP encounter as much as you possibly can within wormhole space to begin with. That being said, once you've gone to all of that effort, do you care if the fit removes the tower in 2 hours versus 2 hours and 15 minutes? Probably not. Those are some of the factors that we've balanced in deciding how to do these fits. But also, as well as I said, in our case, we do deploy these with support fleets as well.
And it's just 2 hours, and like, is that an accurate description? I would have thought that pauses have less HP, but it's not. It takes that long.
That's for a large tower. A small tower is about 20 minutes. A medium tower is about an hour, and a large tower is about 2. If you're doing half a dozen Leshaks, obviously you can reduce that at scale, but that's generally what it goes for. Yeah.
And are you still using your original Leshaks?
Yes.
Nice. I mean, they're quite durable.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, we have had some ship losses. We decided not to prepare those slides for this presentation. We can certainly go into that. Some of the ship losses that we've had, for example, is we talked in the last update about the times that we were encountering free modules, where it's just anchored modules with no POS whatsoever that were incapacitated or for whatever reason were just floating out there. And so we've done a couple of rounds of sending in like ZARMs or Neuroses and stuff to rep up these modules and remove them. And we did lose some logistic ships, and we have lost a couple of
DM Disco
PvP
is
losses.
asking, found any abandoned gun stars or Death Stars or whatever they are called?
Yeah, absolutely. And faction Death Stars have a really good return rate. This is one of the areas that we'd be happy to provide some more detail on if there's interest in that. The E-War modules have a higher per item sell rate, but faction laser bits have a better ISK return per cubic meter.
Okay. In terms of like, so I'm guessing you have like looting ships on hand. You already said that, right? You have when you're anchoring, like there's the modules are large enough for you to have some sort of solution to remove them, right? To get them out of there. Yeah.
Yeah, after the Lishaks take out the tower, in general, we deploy somewhere around 3 to 4 Iterons that warp in and out to each module, unanchor it, and haul it back. So we really prefer doing pauses where they've clustered the modules close together, as opposed to the cloud deployment, which is way more annoying to clean up after.
But then you typically have whole control while you're doing this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Did I miss any questions? Can we get his Z kill? I want to see what he's been killing. No, I'm guessing that answer is no.
We'll think about it.
If so, you can find it on our Discord. Here's the link.
If there's interest in going into greater depth on like the methodologies that we think make the most sense for doing this, we'd be very happy to create some YouTube content or some video walkthroughs to really explain how we do this step by step, so other people can replicate it. If folks are interested in that.
Yeah, if you guys, Tony is obviously on our Discord, and he has got the title of Oz Tank Alumni, so he's easy to find and go and message him if you're interested in this stuff, especially if you want to see YouTube videos, and let him know that there's an interest out there. Cool. All right. Anything else? You're gonna? I have a question, and that is, so is this for you like a do you have a regular night where you go out? Like, is this like scheduled, or is it more like opportunistic? Oh, we found something. When's everyone free? Let's schedule it. So, just I'm always interested in the what the play styles are that people have, and a lot of content in Wormholes is very time intensive, and this sounds like a very interesting kind of opportunity that you can schedule. Is that true?
To a degree, yeah. I mean, one of the things that surprised us is kind of one of the most valuable lessons learned that we had is that the most important decision point in this whole operation was deciding when to say no. You come along across a whole bunch of maybes, and it may be it's a system that has too many high-class wormhole connections, or it's too much active PvP, or the ROI is not quite right, and being very selective in choosing your target has been a big thing. So in terms of when those wormhole connections arise is when we would identify something that could be good, and then we would have 24 hours or less to actually move on that and harvest it and take it down.
Yeah, nice, cool. And how long do you think you're going to be doing this?
I think we're going to continue this. It's kind of a special interest group in our corp. We will just continue doing this. Now that we're not doing it with a primary profit motive, we'll switch back a bit more to the annoyance motivation that we started with this, where we'll be also taking out pause sticks that don't have any associated anchored modules and hence an ROI, but are just junk out there in space. So we'll pivot a bit more to cleanup crew and probably split it between making money and cleaning stuff up.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of the impact that the Oz tank has had, it's more like speed, right? You were able to get started quicker with the fleet that you had, because I mean you have a profitable activity here, so you would have gotten there eventually without us, right?
It was a huge acceleration to get that 10 billion injection. Yeah, absolutely. To be able to go out there and start this with a fleet of Leshaks made a big difference. If we'd had to step that up and fund it iteratively with the profits it generated, it would have taken a much longer period of time to get the capital together to field a fleet of that cost. So there was a huge help.
Is your team doing like are they in it for the money or for the fun? Like I'm sure everyone has their own motivations, but on average?
Yeah, I think everybody has their own motivations. I mean, we debated doing a slide on ISK per hour breakdown,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately, we all felt that that's just a dumb metric, and we didn't want to promote that kind of thinking. But some of the things that we about, like, if you look at stuff that folks do in EVE Online, like Rampage, and if you look at Turbo Feed, and these are really prominent corps, very very highly skilled people. Wormhole corps will go out there and roll their hole looking for PvP combat for 3 hours and get nothing. Or you'll watch Briskerball sit there with a mining fleet for 3 hours, pointing a flashy light at a rock. And it's like, people do what they want to do. Do what you're enjoying and do what's fun, and don't worry so much about ISK per hour. Sometimes you get nothing, sometimes you get a lot. If you're enjoying it, go for it. And pointing Leshaks at a pause tower and harvesting modules, we were of the view, should not be considered less boring than taking a Hulk and pointing mining lasers at a rock.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, is per hour is definitely overrated, and if you have an activity that is fun to do with a good group of people, then it's and it gives a little bit of ISK in the end, then that's probably a fantastic combination. Cool. Tony, thanks for stopping by again. It's always a pleasure talking to you. So do come back, do post updates, even if you're keeping your profits. Just very very interested to see how your project is going.
Awesome. Thanks much. Good luck.
Perfect. Thank you. Bye. All right. Very cool. Let's see here. We're going to do that, and I'm going to hide the presentation, or rather we're going to go over here. AFK writing is the most fun activity, as you can play games that aren't Eve. That's, yeah, that sometimes that is true. Sometimes that is true. Okay. We're gonna get the Puce Moose in here. He's been patiently waiting. I don't know if you're there already, Puce Moose. Are you there?
I'm here.
You are. Perfect. How are you?
I am. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm guessing you're not on cam, right? I will just keep you on audio, right?
No, I can share you a spreadsheet if you want to see a nice spreadsheet.
Oh, nice. Let's see. Do you have a video Ninja link, or how do you want to share it?
It'll have to be Discord, I think.
I can if you share it, I can probably just drag it in here. So let's try that. Do you have the right permissions to do so?
I don't think so. It's not letting me stream that.
Okay. I don't know if I can give you those. Well, how about you start? I'll figure that out, and you can start by telling everyone what your initial idea was, or rather, I mean, you were a little bit of a special case, so you can explain that.
Absolutely, yeah. So our project isn't much of a project in that it's just funding for faction warfare, specifically Caldari faction warfare. Oz made the questionable decision of investing in Galente FW a while ago, and felt guilty and decided to sling some ISK towards Caldari as well. So we took an investment of about 15 billion ISK from investors to buy us ships, give us SRP, that sort of thing. And since then, we've been converting that into assets. We've been going out, using it, losing it, getting some kills along the way. So I'll give you some stats to begin with. Since the investment, which was about 3 months ago now, we've destroyed about 6.4 billion ISK to a loss of about 3.8 billion ISK. So
Nice.
about 66% more destroyed than we've lost. These aren't exact numbers because I don't track every single fleet that we do. These are just larger ones.
And that's in what time period?
So that's over 3 months. So we're averaging about 2
Nice.
billion ISK a month at the moment. That's normally 2 or 3 fleets a month, I'd say.
Nice.
Overall, from that 15 billion ISK that was invested, probably 60% of it has been converted into assets now, with that 3.8 billion lost, of course. So we have ships. We don't really have enough people to use them. So if you want to do some faction warfare, Starline Enterprises is recruiting. But it's been great fun. We recruited about 4 new people into the corp off of the Oztank initially. So we took some time to train them up in just some small frigates. We invested a bunch of ISK unwisely into more brawly ships. Quickly realized that when we use those, we get outnumbered quite quickly. So we swapped tactics over to the more small gang, nano gang, kitey bullshit things, which we've been having a decent amount of success with so far.
And the most recent, I mean, since you're out there in faction warfare, what's I think in between this investment and now we've had an expansion focusing on the pirate faction. So how has that impacted your gameplay? I'm presumably extensively, right?
Yeah, so we've been enjoying Havoc quite a lot, actually. The insurgency has spawned, I think, 3 times, basically on top of our home system, and it's actually great to just be able to undock and instantly get combat. It's seen a rise in us using T2 ships again as well, because the plexes are less likely to be gated just a navy. So we've used some of that investment ISK to get us some assault frigates and assault cruisers as well, which we've been using quite a lot. It's been great fun. We've got some lovely kills off of Havoc as well.
Nice. You should be able to share your screen now. So if you want to share that spreadsheet, then let's see. Let me know when it's working. Then I can know if and when it's working.
No, it doesn't seem to want to let me.
Okay. All right. Well, we can do that last time. Then tell us what's on the spreadsheet. What were you going to show us?
Oh, this is basically just these stats I just talked about.
Okay.
A couple of nice graphs of those stats, effectively. But yeah.
So tell us about your usual content. I heard you on declarations of war the other week, I think, right? In December sometime, with another one of our alumni, Farouzan, who created the bounty hunting. I tried to get him onto the show, but he said, it's kind of grinded to a halt, the whole bounty hunting system. Can you give us your perspective on that?
So I absolutely adored the bounty hunting system. Unfortunately, between real life and running the FW Corp, I have little time to actually go and hunt people. I'm quite sad to see it. I believe he's stopped it officially now. I'm quite sad to see it go because it was a great idea. And when it was working really well. People just seem to have not had enough time, I think, to be able to engage with it, whilst also doing their normal play styles. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really dependent on some people doing bounty hunting full time. So for those of you that didn't hear the initial pitch, so Farouzan basically created a bounty hunting system that that CCP used to have in game in some capacity, not as intricate, but it was removed, and ever since then there wasn't really any sort of working bounty hunting system. And it seems like for about 5 or 6 months, Farouzan and his on his Discord server had it figured out. He had a system that a lot of people, when he first pitched it on the Oz Tank, were very critical about, and now it was. In November, December, it had its high time, and it was working, and since then, it must have just, as Pius is saying, if people aren't doing it full time, then it's going to be very difficult to keep something up, because without targets, there's no hunters, and without hunters, there's no platform. So that's really sad to see. But Pius, you were top dog for a month or so, right?
I think I was top dog for a couple of months there, and then
Nice.
I was unseated from about 0 to 2 billion ISK in one night by Azalthar. So I was a bit annoyed at that, but it was great to see all those things dying, all those kill mails popping up. So
yeah, really, that's really sad. But so what's you're saying you're focusing more on corp management. So how much ISK did we give you? I don't remember.
So 15 billion from the Oz Tank was invested in us.
Nice. And would you say you've spent all that? You're saving some up. Like, what's your funding situation like right now?
Yeah, so we've got about 5 billion liquid left, and then probably another 5, 6, I'd say, in assets, fitted ships effectively that we had out during fleets sitting there. We're losing it at a steady rate. Probably like 1.2 billion per month, maybe, depending on the bad days. We had one where we lost about 1.2 in a day the other day, so that was cool. But then, literally yesterday, we killed almost 2 billion ISK in a night. So ups and downs, swings and roundabouts. That should keep us going for another couple of months. But if anybody is wanting to invest in Caldari Faction Warfare, Starlight Enterprises.
Nice. Yeah. What's your usual when you're not getting money from the Oz Tank? What does you're more like a small medium faction warfare group, right? What's your typical income source?
It's basically donations from members. We've got a few committed members who have their own incomes and will decide to give some for the good of the group. We're effectively communists, much to the chagrin of one of our US members. But yeah, kind donations from our members mostly keep us going.
Yeah, because I mean it's interesting, right? We typically if you're looking at null, or you're looking at wormhole space, typically in a corp you have a balance and an opportunity to make ISK and then also spend ISK and destroy fleets. In faction warfare, if everyone's just doing faction warfare, then really all you can do is you can run faction warfare missions or LP or Plexus. That's your main income source in FW itself, right?
Yeah, so the main income would be LP. In Starline, we tend to go more for combat rather than running plexes. We don't really like sitting for 20 minutes in a plex shooting a rat that much. We like to move around and shoot people. But historically, our LP tax has also been low because I'd rather the players get the LP themselves and then decide whether they want to get that back into Corp. We've raised it a bit recently just to keep that higher level of SRP going. But yeah, most of it goes back to the players.
Yeah, and I guess it doesn't really matter, right? If you leave the LP with the players, then they're going to, if they're having fun, they're going to spend it on Corp activities, right? Because that's what they like to do. I'm not a big fan of centralizing taxes, but then again, I'm not running an active corp, so Nice. So what's your outlook like? How many members do you have? You said you recruited 4 via the Allstank presentation, but what's your like typical active player base?
So I think we've got about 16 enlisted members at the moment. Of those, about 7, I'd say, are like properly fully active. We average about 5 people on fleets for the the mainline Friday ones, and then probably 2 to 4 on weekday ones. Unfortunately, we will have quite busy real life lives, so we do what we can when we can.
Nice, but so you're one of the smaller Caldari FW corps then, presumably.
Yeah, we're tiny compared to say UCSC or Calcif or something like that, but we're doing our best.
Nice. And Zagwella here in chat, he's still in your corp.
Yep, Zag's still there. We've still got both Finns.
Both Finns. So the odds, Pius, the odds of me meeting those two in Reykjavik at FanFest, that and then being in a very tiny corp, you guys got I don't know if I want to call it luck, but that was quite a coincidence.
Well, I will say, as I explained in the initial presentation, it was slightly planned out to go and get some investment from the tycoons.
Yeah,
they
at least
were
from Eden.
pre-briefed.
Yeah. All right. So yeah. Anything else interesting going on that you wanna share?
Overall, I'd just say we're looking for new members. If you want to do some small gang stuff, look us up in game Starline Enterprises. If you want to sort of try hard in the moment, but then laugh about it afterwards when it all goes horrendously wrong, we might be the corp for you. Talking of FanFest, you will probably see 5 or 6 of us at FanFest in 2025. We'll go out for a drink.
Nice. Yes, I did see your corp members drink. That's something I did see. All right, perfect. Pius, thanks for stopping by, and we're looking forward to corp updates in the project update channel on our Discord. I always love to read those, and I know there's a bunch of others that are subscribed to those updates.
Cool. Well, thank you for having me.
Cool. All right. See ya.
Goodbye.
All right. I have no one else waiting in the channel, so I don't know if Mifune actually made it. Let's see if Mifune is out there. Hold on. Okay. So we've still got Zero coming in. There he is. Perfect. Okay. Zero, are you there?
Hey.
Hey. Oh, can you say something? I think you might be a little bit quiet, then I need to turn up your volume.
How about this? I'm going to keep talking until you
are
happy with me.
I will turn you up. Perfect. All right. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. I just need to turn your stream off because I'm struggling to hear you, but I'm okay now. I've just done that. I've just DM'd you one of those links for screen share.
Perfect. I'm pulling it up right now. While I pull that up, why don't you give everyone that maybe didn't see your initial pitch an idea of what you pitched?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm somebody who does a lot of work with university and the FC team there. The aim of that FC team is to teach people how to do PvP fleet command, right from their very first fleet all the way through to perhaps running battlecruiser fleets and maybe other things like small gang. We have always had varying interest, degrees of interest, and types of interest in the offer that we have. We were facing, when I came on the show, quite a significant need to improve our doctrine offers so that we could field stronger doctrines, so that we could allow our junior FCs and others to field bigger ships, because we were under a lot of pressure from different groups that wanted content from us, but of a more sort of intense and significant nature than our FCs were used to. So we came on the show and we asked for 20 billion-isk really for to cover the cost of losing one of those full battlecruiser fleets that we might field. And also we were looking to specialize some of our offer as well around PvP so that we could teach people things like bushing and blops logi rolls and different things, and using an additional, I think we ended up with another 6.8 billion from you for those sorts of things. And in total, yeah, it was 26.8 billion that you gave us. And yeah, I'll talk about what we've done with it and what we've achieved and what we had to pivot onto because of, Eve is a changing thing, right?
Nice. Yeah, and I thought of you this week because I listened to the Declarations of War episode, the most recent one where you explained what happened to your wormhole campus, and I felt for you. I've been evicted before, and it's never nice.
Yes, the members definitely will be, appreciative to hear that because it's hit them quite hard. But I'm sure they're going to bounce back, and we'll talk a little bit about some of that as we go on. I'm wondering if the video is going to work for you. I don't know if the bitrate will work, but we'll see, right?
We'll see. Yeah, we can see it now on screen, so you can try to play it. Let's see what happens.
So what
Does
this
it have
is
sound?
basically no.
Okay.
It's too much to do that. So I'm just going to let it play. It's 16 minutes long. If we need to speed it up, right, we will. But what it is basically a selection of clips of things that I'm going to talk to you about. So I'm just going to, if it's okay, just talk over the video.
Please.
So essentially what you're seeing now is down in Syndicate in NPC null space, there's some Eve University presence there that has been there for a long time. And we had some people come in and try to, get content from us, which in nullsec means they come and deploy structures in your space. They come to, harass your miners, your fleets and different things. And this is us now successfully managing to blow up some of the invaders' little structures they put down and things, using different types of fleets. And we had to be crafty because they were using a lot of capital ships against us. I say a lot, right? In the nullsec sphere, they were using a tiny amount of capitals, really. But for our little, new player corporation, really, it was a lot, even if it was only 4 or 5. So we used different types of ships. We used everything you're seeing really is basically relatively new FCs, apart from 1 or 2 clips where the FCs are a bit more experienced. And those FCs and those members, basically getting out in space and blowing stuff up. Now we had to think about using the battlecruiser fleets for a lot of these, but in the end, the way it turned out, the situation kind of changed, and we ended up using other things. So with this particular set of structure destruction, we ended up using a new doctrine that we were able to come up with on the fly and dig out to the archives, so to speak. And because of different fundings and things, we were able to just get on with it. And this now is us not being successful defending one of the structures that we owned, because this is snuffed out to bring in some capital ships of their own to destroy one of the structures. So I thought I'd just add in a little bit of, it doesn't always work out, as well as this was a bit of fun that we were able, again, to afford just because, we had a bit of extra freedom and a bit of extra ISK. So more learning for the members. And again, there's a bit more of the same, but what have we got here? So this now is us doing some small gang stuff. Because we'd sorted out the nullsec situation, we were able to concentrate a bit more on teaching people small gang FCing. And this is us in fraternity space, messing about with quite a significant large fleet down there with a small gang of ships that are kitey. So they try to stay at range and not get caught, and they try to pick off targets of opportunity. These are sort of more advanced PvP techniques that you want to try and teach players because it's really exciting and really engaging, right? If you can get people doing these things where they're piloting their own ship and they're not just anchoring on the FC, they really get into Eve. They really enjoy it. So again, this is us basically surviving against fraternities, capital ships there, and Cyclone fleet issues, Lechisises, and different ships that would normally catch you, and being able to sort of get 1 or 2 kills and then kind of run away. And as this video goes on, you'll see like us coming back and forth.
So is this like, would you categorize this as training or like?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything you're seeing now is us during the engagements. We're talking people through what's happening. We review these videos afterwards as well. So I'll stream them and I'll show, everyone, and we'll talk through the engagements, and we'll say, look at this ship and look at that ship. We could have done this. We could have done that. And all of Eve Uni's fleets really are very much broken down into step by step. This is why we use this ship. This is why you're flying that. And we use these as opportunities to teach people. So this is us running away now. Yeah, the training, I mean, it is quite intense, really, I think, for especially for brand new players, right? This now is the next level up. You know, a lot of our fleets are, which we'll come on to, a bit more basic and straightforward, the Merlin fleets and things. But this was something that we were doing then as an intermediate stopgap because the other stuff had dried up a bit. So it'll move on to other sort of small gang style engagements, and these small gang engagements are probably, I think, maybe I'm biased, probably the most fun of all of the different types of fleets, and we definitely see a bigger retention of new players when they get into this stuff. You know, right now they're shooting a golem, which they don't kill, right? We don't kill it, but it's just exciting to try and kill a marauder with tiny cheap ships. But in
Yeah,
comes
what are you
the
flying
support.
here?
So, oh, we've just switched again. So these would be things like small battle cruisers, T1 battle cruisers, maybe a Navy battle cruiser, some one T2 logi ship, and then tackle, basically.
And you
Here
develop
now
the
we're,
ships, or do you do SRP?
about half the ships end up getting thrown at people. Here's a ship, and then the other half tend to be SRP'd if people die. But we try not to die, you know, we do try our best not to. This is us now engaging with a larger group. Okay, we've just switched to something that I wasn't expecting. I'm just going to pause it.
And
So-
you're it looks like you're quadruple boxing though.
I'm trying not to show off. No, I'm not very good at it. So again, I'm training myself, right? I'm trying to train myself to multi-box and help.
But you're
So-
in this, in case people are wondering, this is Evo preview with 4 clients running, right?
Yeah, this particular one now is just 3. I've switched to, this is a different clip, so this is a 3 one. On this one, oh, there's a good opportunity to tell a story here, right? So we just saw us go from Thera, where you allowed us to have a corp office because you funded us to have a corp office in Thera. We moved from Thera into a wormhole, and it was in Delve. So the FC said, okay, let's go to Delve. Now, if anyone doesn't know, Delve is where the goons live. And I didn't realize at the time, but we get through the wormhole and it literally collapses behind us, right? So if I just go back, you'll just see the clip transitions to this clip, and you'll just see the wormhole here. There's the wormhole. And it'll just collapse now, trapping us in goon space. Now, not only does it trap us in goon space, but we're literally next door to 1DQ. So we're inside the goon pocket where, like, there's no escape, right? Like, you can't get out. So, what do we do now? So what we end up doing is, again, this is some of those small gang kind of skills we're talking about, right? We end up trying to run for it, trying to get out through 1DQ, out of the pocket, and then we'll try and escape some other way, right? So we warp to the 1DQ gate because we've got a scout and everything's okay. But as we're in warp, the scout says, oh my God, there's a huge fleet the other side of this gate. Everyone's going to die. So we land on the gate, and our FC, who's, you know, been doing this small gang stuff a little bit and is, you know, getting good at it, he tells us to align to the encounter surveillance system, the ESS, because that's where we can try and survive. We can try and kite out these goons. And what happens is they start tackling us on the gate. So we align to the encounter surveillance system, and because of you know, some of those things we're trying to do, we do the double boosh, which takes us 200 kilometers off the gate. There it goes. And then we kill the slasher that they're trying to use to tackle us, escaping the gate camp there, escaping all the ships that are coming through, and then we warp to the ESS. And then you'll see now this clip. I don't know if it's in sync with my voice, but what will happen next is we'll end up landing on the ESS, and then we'll end up going up in space and just basically running away from this huge fleet that comes in a moment. Here it comes. This huge goon fleet comes in, trying to. This is what happens if you ever filament in or wormhole into the back door of goon space. They come at you. There's no mercy whatsoever. Basically, roaming gangs are not welcome in goon space, which is quite funny. And then the next thing that comes up is something we did with the Feroxes, right? Because again, like, the whole point of this was we were trying to teach people to use the Ferox fleet. Because at the time we needed it, even though that need has dissipated, we needed it at the time. So we set something up with Noir. Noir were looking to practice a new doctrine. So we without the practice server now, the what do you call it, Singularity server, people can't really practice stuff. So we set up an engagement with them. So this is the Ferox fleet now. We minimized the numbers to like we kind of planned the numbers so that it was a fun engagement for both sides, but also a practical from a sort of pragmatic standpoint. We wanted it to be an effective test of their new doctrine. So this is us now practicing the aligning and anchoring and things, and I'm doing my best to give you some decent screens of what the fleet looks like in space. And then in a moment, we'll transition to the fight that we had with Noir, something we discussed on the Declarations of War podcast as well. And, the FC that ran this fleet has done 1 or 2 Ferox fleets before, but it was another opportunity to have people in the command channel, teaching them how to do it, just generally having people in multiple roles. And then this is us now engaging with Noir, having that skirmish with them. They had a battlecruiser fleet. We had a battlecruiser fleet. This is quite a typical kind of scenario where, say, Noir are slightly, relatively outnumbered. Definitely, a situation they're quite familiar with. Perhaps this would be a typical, defense of a structure kind of scenario, where they're facing, say, 40 Feroxes or a size fleet Feroxes of that nature, and they've got their Cyclone fleets and trying to mitigate against our damage and stuff. And then we've got our tackle trying to use bubbles to slow them down in this case rather than stop them warping off. Various things to sort of then obviously everyone has to follow broadcasts. This is more of your traditional anchor up, have multiple roles, lots of opportunities for learning. So we did this. This is probably the best thing we did with the Ferox fleet the entire time that since we spoke last, really.
How many Feroxes is this? 30?
We were looking for about 30 Feroxes, yeah, and about then the Logi to go with it, and the Hugins and various things, yeah.
All right, so that's not that expensive.
No. But again, we weren't looking to lose the whole thing. But if we did, we did, right? And that was one of the benefits of this, was we could do this without fear of the uni being bankrupt or whatever. But no, we did well. We did well. We didn't really lose anything really of significant value.
So what if you, in terms of the wormhole campus incident, right?
Yeah.
Is this something now where, like, do you have a funding issue now that happened, or is it more like a morale issue?
Yeah, it's more of what do we do next? One of the weaknesses of EVE Uni is that its focus is on new players from day one kind of players, and only say 5 or 10% of its efforts are in the more complex stuff. So it's slow to make decisions on what to do next. So really, that's where the sort of, it's not really about funding at this point. It's more about, what do they do next? Where do they want to set up a wormhole campus? What's it going to look like? That's going to take a bit of time to work out, really.
Nice.
But the other thing that we found was, after the release of the expansion and the video from Frederick Knudsen, we had a flood of new players, and these players can't fly in Feroxes yet. They can't fly in the small gang stuff yet. They can only really do Merlins, right? Which is a frigate that we use for teaching new FCs mainly. So in a moment, we're going to move on to the Merlin fleets we've been running.
I actually think that's good news, Zero. I talk to way too many new players that are like, oh, I want to, buy skill injectors to inject into this ship, that ship, and they've been playing for like 2 or 3 days, and I just think that is so unhealthy. It is. Go and learn the game before you actually spend huge amounts of money or ISCO, but however you got that stuff, because that's the best part of the game. To me, I not to everyone, surely, but that part of the game where you actually skill into new ships, you're happy to gain new skills to upgrade your ship. I mean, isn't that always the best part of most games? But
So we're trying to send that message, right? That you don't need billions of ISK to do this. So we use the Merlins, because the Merlins, they cost about 2 million, 3 million for the fitted ship. they've almost fully SRP'd. The Logi is the same, about 4 or 5 million. You can get a T2 version if you've been playing the game longer for about 6 or 7, maybe 10 million, depending on what you're doing. And we take huge numbers of these Merlins out, right? Because when you take a Merlin fleet out, 45 people, 50 people will join, and they'll do it every single day, 3 or 4 times a day. So then we get people saying, well, I'm only a month in this game. I've been playing this game a month. But can I run these Merlin fleets? It seems pretty straightforward. And that's when we can say absolutely yes. So this is the Merlins now in Brave's space. This was a brand new FC who'd been playing the game for less than a month. And, you know, you can just throw these Merlins at things. And on this particular occasion, Brave responded quite harshly to our presence in their space, shooting their Ansiblex. And they sent one of their main FCs and a broadsword in to tackle us. And we ended up killing the broadsword and all dying in a glorious battle. This inspired a lot of people, right, to do more. So we did more Merlin fleets. And on this particular Merlin fleet, we came across a Phoenix Navy issue floating about in space. And I don't know if you can see the text, but there's genuinely is a Phoenix Navy issue there, just sort of, the faction dread, just sort of sitting there near the gate, trying to kill our Merlins. And there's other ships around. There's a Golem here that we try and kill first. And this new FC is doing very well at, avoiding the smart bomb damage by telling people to turn their micro warp drives off and, warping the fleet off when the damage is getting too harsh and we're not killing the Golem. But the story continues, right? We'd roamed from Thera because of the Corp office again. So we were near Thera and we put some feelers out there to people that live in Thera. And we said, we've got this Phoenix Navy issue, a few jumps from Thera. It's quite entertained by our presence here. So we start playing about with this group here, and we start playing about with the Phoenix Navy. It gets a few kills at some point soon. We try and kill stuff. We don't get any kills at this point, right? They're just soaking up our ships, and the FC's doing extremely well here to keep this thing entertained while we might have backup come in. And this goes on for ages, right? It's about a 45-minute, 50-minute engagement, but I'm just sort of put the highlights in for you here. And in the end, about half the fleet is dead, right? And the FC ends up dying as well, sadly. So a couple of us were sort of more experienced, sort of able to take over, and we say, right, let's keep this thing entertained for as long as we can. So this Phoenix Navy issue sticks around, it sticks around, it sticks around. Eventually it takes this gate that it's been kind of sitting on for ages. And as it's taking the gate, in comes some assistance to help us to tackle it from Thera. And then we get to the gate pretty soon, and then we go through the gate. We tackle it the other side. We keep it tackled for about 10 or 15 minutes, the other side of the gate. And then suddenly the cavalry comes in from behind. So that's what you're about to see now. So I think this is the point where, we walk to the gate. The Phoenix Navy issue has gone through. He was quite happy to fight us at this point. So you're about to see the bunch of Merlins, get one over on a 10 billion-esque
nice
Phoenix Navy issue, which is the kind of moral of the story, right? This is what we were saying, you don't need millions of hundreds of millions of skill points or ISK or whatever. Look at the amount of fun you can have in this game just by being in a starter ship, really, almost. And then the players, those that died either reshipped in Thera because we had the Corp office there, or because we were in NPC space, some of them went and bought some ships in the NPC stations in Nulltech as well. And the people who live in Thera were quite happy to come along here, and they were quite impressed that we'd managed to keep this Phoenix Navy issue entertained and tackled for what was about 40 minutes.
Nice.
Here they come. Yeah, so that was that one. Sadly, you don't really get
and
to
that
see it
FC was
die.
only been playing for a month. That's impressive.
Yeah, this particular FC on this one had been playing a bit longer. But he'd only been FC in for a short time, yeah. So we're kind of flipping between different things.
Yeah.
So there's Grunt Kado now turning up to help us kill this thing, and then it dies. And then about a week later, one of our directors who's doesn't really FC a lot, right? So he's kind of learning to FC as well, even though he's a director of the Corps. He's on a roam, and we take things out with him, and we see another Phoenix Navy issue on our small ship frigate roam, And yeah, we end up having the same situation happen because again we'd gone from Thera. So yeah, a lot of fun. 2 Phoenix Navy issues have died. Lots of Merlin fleets. We ended up with the loot from one of the Merlin fleets. We ended up, the FC wanted to donate, like there was a billion ISK module in there, so he wanted to donate like a billion ISK of Merlins for free use. And something fascinating happened in December. He ran this event with his billion ISK of Merlins, where even though the corp pays SRP and the cost to members for doing a Merlin fleet is very small, the FCs are always quite nervous if they've never done it before. They're always quite nervous. Like losing everyone's ships, it seems to be a bit of a barrier. So because on these particular fleets, Francie, his name is, he called them Merry Merlins. Because of Francie's Merry Merlins, which were free because of the loot, we suddenly had more volunteers from people that had never FC'd before. And Francie, taught that, because he'd been the one with the kill, he taught them the ropes and he got them going. And it was so successful that because, we had the Oz ISK lying around, we put a further chunk of ISK into it, and we had even more of these things over Christmas. And I'll just bring down this sort of the spreadsheet now of, where we're at with what I've spent, right? Because I kind of basically ended up spending stuff that I wasn't planning, because I didn't end up using we didn't end up doing the battlecruiser fleets, right? But I didn't want the ISK just sitting there. So we ended up, I've got 13
Can you
billion
zoom
left.
in a little bit?
I'll try, yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, what did I give him? In the end, I think we spent another 1.5 and a bit. So 2.6 billion ISK in Merlins, which have all been blown up by FCs that have never done it before. I think, again, because of that like influx of brand new players that we had around the expansion and around the down the rabbit hole, we just wanted to capitalize on that. And yeah, we've had loads of new FCs. There was this is some of the feedback we had. This was just a little graph of feedback we had back in, this was October's time period, and there were 107 responses to our FC feedback form, and generally things were quite positive.
Nice.
And in the following month, we ended up with double the amount of responses to our feedback form, which indicates a significant uptake and increase in the amount of fleets people were running, right? It's not scientific, because it could just be that there were more people on the fleets as well, or the feedback form was shared more rigorously. But yeah, we ended up with tons of stuff going on, and the activity really continued to go up and up. We did have a little dip then over Christmas, and perhaps in part due to the eviction. But yeah, the numbers wise, we've spent essentially half of the ISK. There's literally today now a 6 billion ISK order for the Blop stuff has gone in, because we want to do some stuff with the Blops in wormhole space in particular. And I was going to mention what maybe I was thinking of doing with the other 13.3 billion if we're not going to end up using it for the Feroxes so much.
Remind me again, how much did you get from us?
26.8.
That's a good chunk.
Yeah, so we've gone through quite a lot of it. And a lot of this isn't stuff that's blown up. It's stuff that we still have. Like the Blops order, the 6 billion, that's just going to be sat there. That's ships and stuff, And the TheraCorp office runs for another 8 months or so. So that cost has been offset there.
Yeah.
And there's some of these Thera ships are still alive in Thera as well. So it's not that we've blown up 13.5 billion ISK. It's more like about half of it we've blown up. So a quarter of the initial investment has been exploded, but the content has been quite significant.
You're free to do whatever you want with it. You can explode the 26 billion. It's left our wallet. But I see a few people mentioning in chat, let's give them more money. So if and when it runs out, I hope we see you back on the show, because of course I think people are always eager to support Eve Uni, and especially now after the eviction. I mean, I don't, I only the politics behind it, the only thing I followed was that declarations of war episode. So that was mainly the way that you explained it, right? But it's it breaks my heart a little bit. It's especially because you had your fleet stolen, or your ship stolen before, so you were severely hampered in the defense that you could muster, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, as I said on declarations of war, right? Even if the defense fleet was there, the opposition did such a good job of controlling the hole and entrances to the hole that we couldn't even get shuttles in effectively. But you know, it certainly took the wind out of our sails when that went. And I think that it would have been a very much more fun engagement from our point of view, and a much better opportunity for us to, you know, do some fun things and learning opportunities if we'd been able to put the full Ferox fleet to use in the hole, which we had there. It was sitting there waiting, and it just got taken away. And towards the end, you know, I did manage to get about 40 people in. So I think we, at the very end, you know, so I think we would have had a good chance of pushing them off on one of the big timers. And if they were persistent, they probably would have continued, and they probably would have managed to evict us anyway, right? I mean, I don't think that was the only, you know, thing. But yeah, I think on the wormhole front, right, what we've learned and what I've learned is, you know, you can't make FCs live in a wormhole if they don't want to. So you end up in a situation where, you know, the FCs tend to go, they float around the place. And it's like this in a lot of groups, right? The FCs will go where the fun is, and they'll move about. You can't force them to live in the wormhole. You can't make them live with all the wormhole people that dedicate their game time to that.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of ways of getting the FCs involved in more complex wormhole stuff, so that me and other people that like to teach people to FC, we can teach them how to do real sort of wormhole PvP. And it might involve doing it somewhere other than Eve Uni's wormhole campus, because I don't think that's going to be sufficient. You know, I definitely people will do the PvP stuff in Eve Uni's wormhole campus, wherever it may be in the future, hopefully quite soon. But I think for me to really get them to the next level, like we were trying to do with the Feroxes in Nullsec, I think we need to expose them to the like more PvP focused wormholers that can really show them, you know, some more advanced stuff. And I've got some connections and friends, and I've got some of my own stuff that I do outside of Eve Uni, and I think we're going to try and come up with some opportunities, basically to say to FCs, look, come with us tonight now. 3 or 4 of you come with us tonight. We're going to show you some stuff, and here's some ships, because you can't expect these people to have ships stocked up in the wormhole all the time of their own, or bring them in on the day, because the situation changes dynamically, and you know, they're just supposed to bring a shuttle. So if we can use some of this ISK to basically have a bit of some ships ready in wormhole space for them, and they can turn up and we can teach them stuff in the wormhole, that's what I'm tempted to do with it. But yeah, if the offer is there to sort of come back, if the money runs out, if we do need those Feroxes again, you know, and then the situation changes, then that gives me a bit more security to try and just do what I can with the money, and, you know, do the best thing with it, really, depending on the fluidity of the situation.
Yeah, sure. And if you're looking, I mean, it sounds like you're set with connections in your own network. But if you need any help on that end, I'm happy to support us as well. I think
Much
overall,
appreciated.
you know, I'd love to see an Eve Uni campus return to wormholes. I mean, I think it's supposed to be there.
Yeah, and you know, maybe they would come to you separately to me and say, we would like to do this specific thing. But I don't think that's necessarily needed. I think they've got enough as a group. They've got, wormholes are quite lucrative, right? If you do the stuff in the wormhole, and you then divert those funds back into the wormhole, you can do a lot with what you make in the wormhole. It's just about deciding what to do with it. So I don't think they would need that, but they might have their own ideas, and it might be slightly different to the things I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I don't think the problem is making money in the wormhole. I think it's the problem that you said before. You need enough PvP-minded people to defend that thing if somebody comes knocking. And even then, some groups are going to come that you will not be able to defend against, and that's just the way it is. I think if the most important thing is that A, they defend, and B, they expect to be evicted at some point, because that's going to happen. It's always going to happen at some point.
Yes.
Cool. Well, Zero, thank you so much for stopping by, for giving us an update. It looks like you still have some money left. But when you do run out, please do come back. Crota, I see Crota already in chat, up for giving more money. So we're always looking for ideas. Do come back, and great job on Declarations of War. I listen all the time. Hey, if you guys in chat, if you are not listening to Declarations of War yet, it's Eve's longest running podcast, if I can believe the intro. So go check it out. It's fun stuff. It's from a mercenary perspective, but it's really it's really interesting for anyone playing Eve. So good job on that, Zero.
And if you're not going to plug it, I will. You were nominated for one of our Black Mark Awards, right? And the voting is open right now.
All right, it's open. Yeah, go do that. I was surprised.
I mean, I just want to mention one other as well. One of our best FCs, Clarity, who's done so much of this stuff with players and teaching them. He's been nominated for FC of the Year. So I just want to plug that because I think, he's a worthy person to consider voting for.
Nice. Do you have a link for me? Zero,
I do.
So that I can put in chat. If you send it to me, then I am going to put it in chat so people can vote.
Thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks, and see you around.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cool. All right. Now I'm hoping that Zero will send me the link there. Yeah. So Declarations of War is a very cool podcast. If you like podcasts and you like Eve, then I hope you listen to it. I think they have a website too. Oh, there we go. The Black Mark Awards. Putting this in chat. You can go there and vote. It's basically, Eve Awards that Declarations of War host. There is a section on there for, what am I there? The best guest on the podcast. And Jintan and I are both nominated there. So go and vote for whoever you think was the better guest. Is it on Spotify? I imagine so. I listened to it on Pocket Casts, but it's probably on Spotify. I would guess so. If somebody can answer that question, I don't like using Spotify for podcasts, but why? I'm sure it would be. Cool. I'll give you 1 trillion ISK if you find a wormhole I'm not in. All right. Yes, we're talking about seeding that wormhole. All right. Let me turn that music back on here. All right, I think. So Trader Boy, congratulations. Oh, actually, I'm going to turn the music back off here. Trader Boy, congratulations on winning that raffle. There's a bunch of people that have been winning raffles as we have these, as we've had these interviews. So. If you've won a raffle, then send me a message either on Discord or on Twitch, and I will send you a game code after the show. You get a code for a 3-day Omega code and 50 plex that is equivalent to the Weekend Fleet pack. Now, let me put a last call out there for alumni. If you're an Oz Tank alumni and you wanted to present an update, right now is your chance. And if you don't speak up, then I am going to move on to another part of the show. Just checked, it's on Spotify. Thank you, Luca, for answering your own question. Yeah, go check that out. Declarations of War. If you, I imagine if you like podcasts and Eve, then you should be listening to it. And while you're on there, make sure you subscribe to the Oz Report, which is my podcast. I upload the Oz Report, which is the weekly market update, and the monthly economic report, and the Oz Tank episodes. I upload them all as podcasts as well. So if you don't want to sit there and watch them on YouTube or live on Twitch, then you can listen to them on your way to work or pushing a pram or whatever it is that you do when you listen podcasts. I love podcasts, so I absolutely am a fan, and I listen to, I think, every podcast that there is in EVE Online. If you know of any podcasts that you like, that you think I might not be listening to, then please put it in chat or put it in our Discord. So where do you get the time? Where do I get the time to listen to podcasts? I listen to them when I fall asleep. I listen to them in the car. So on my commute to work, I listen to podcasts, and sometimes also listen to them when I'm just watching my kids, cooking. And working out. I work out 3 times a week, and that's when I listen to podcasts. So yeah, the Pews Moose in the loo. That's right. Crota watches YouTube on StrangeNet. Yeah, StrangeNet on YouTube. You mean, Crota? I've watched a bit of StrangeNet as well since you told me about him. Okay, looks like the Oztank alumni show is over. So that was 3 very, very awesome updates. I think. Thank you so much for everyone who showed up today. Make sure you visit our Discord. Here's a link to that as well. Trader Boy 86. Thank you for the sub. Appreciate it, my man. Yeah. Make sure you come there. And if you want ISK, all you have to do is go to the idea submission channel on our Discord and put in an idea. The ideas for the podcast, or for the Oztank, thinking about podcast now. The ideas for the Oztank, they don't have to return an ROI like Tony. You can totally be like Eve Uni and just take ISK from us to teach new players, to create content in EVE Online, or just to do something fun overall. And so, go submit those ideas. We're missing like 3 or 4 ideas, good ideas to run the next Oztank episode. And when we have those together, then we're going to, I'm assuming, run that mid to end February. All right. We're going to return to the regular stream and then see you guys in the Oztank next month.